the smell of smoke. It never truly left him. Detective Miles Corbin, Mr. X to those who knew his haunted past, felt it cling to his clothes, his skin, his very soul. Years ago, a roaring inferno had consumed a tenement building on his watch. He had charged in, a hero in the making, but the flames were a ravenous beast. He had saved some, but not all. The screams of those trapped, the searing heat that kissed his face, the image of a small outstretched hand vanishing into the orange fury. These were the unwelcome tenants of his mind. They paid their rent in sleepless nights and a heart that pounded like a trapped bird at the slightest trigger, a constant, brutal reminder of his perceived failure that day. Every new case felt like walking back into that burning building. His focus would shatter. A flickering fluorescent light in the precinct could transport him. The acrid scent of a cheap cigar, the wail of a distant siren. Even the innocent glow of a desk lamp could ignite the terror. His colleagues saw a good cop, a bit distant perhaps, a man who solved his cases with a grim determination. They didn't see the fissures in his composure, the cold sweat that would bead on his brow when a crime scene felt too close, too suffocating. He was a puzzle they couldn't quite solve, a man walking a tightrope over an abyss of memory. Each step a careful, painful negotiation with the ghosts of yesterday, always fearing the fall. Consider the warehouse fire last spring. A suspected arson, nothing more initially. But the moment he stepped over the threshold, the charred air hit him. It was thick, cloying, a physical presence. His breath hitched. The crackle of dying embers sounded like mocking laughter. His vision tunneled. His partner at the time, a rookie named Henderson, had to gently guide him back outside, his face a mask of concern. Corbin had brushed it off, claimed a sudden bout of illness, but the shame burned hotter than anything. He knew, deep down, that the fire still had its claws in him, its grip tightening with every passing year, making him question his own ability to protect and serve effectively. His guilt was a constant companion, a shadow that grew longer as the days grew shorter. Fear was its twin, whispering insidious doubts into his ear. Could he ever truly be whole again? Would he ever outrun the inferno that raged within his memory, consuming his peace, piece by painful piece? He was trapped in a cycle of remembrance and regret, a personal hell paved with the ashes of his past. Each morning he put on his badge, a shield that felt increasingly flimsy against the relentless assault of his own mind. He longed for an escape, a way to silence the screams and douse the flames that flickered at the edges of his sanity, a way to finally breathe free from the smoke. Then came the call. A missing teenager, Lily Carter, 16 years old, bright future, loving family, vanished from her bedroom. No note, no forced entry, just an empty space where a vibrant life used to be. Her parents sat opposite Corbin in the sterile interview room, their faces etched with a grief so profound it was almost a physical blow. Their voices trembled as they recounted Lily's routines, her friends, her dreams. Corbin listened, his professional mask firmly in place. But inside, the old anxieties stirred. A missing child, the most vulnerable of victims. It was a stark reminder of the innocence he felt he had failed to protect all those years ago, a fresh wound laid open. The initial investigation yielded little. Lily was a good kid, no history of running away, no obvious enemies. But then, a whisper. A street informant, spooked and looking over his shoulder, mentioned a new player in the city's underbelly. A shadowy organization dealing not in drugs or guns, but in something far more horrifying, human organs. The informant spoke of hushed deals, of desperate people disappearing, of a network so sophisticated, so ruthless, it made the usual criminal scum look like petty thieves. Suddenly, Lily Carter's disappearance took on a terrifying new dimension. This wasn't just a missing person case, it was a potential descent into an abyss of unimaginable cruelty. Corbin felt a cold dread seep into his bones, colder than any winter night. Organ trafficking. The words themselves were an obscenity. The thought of Lily, so young, so full of life, falling into the clutches of such monsters, it was almost too much to bear. His protective instincts, always strong, surged with a desperate intensity, yet they were tangled with his ever-present fear. The stakes were impossibly high. Failure here wasn't just about a closed case. It was about a life extinguished, a family shattered, and another ghost to add to his already crowded collection. He saw the flames lick at the edges of his vision again, a premonition of the hell this case might become. The city, once familiar, now seemed to morph into a labyrinth of deceit and hidden horrors. Every shadowed doorway, every unmarked van, every furtive glance felt like a potential clue or a potential trap. The traffickers were ghosts, leaving no trace, their operations shrouded in secrecy. Leads turned into dead ends, witnesses clammed up, their eyes wide with a fear that mirrored Corbin's own. He and his new partner, Rhea, worked tirelessly, sifting through data, chasing down rumors, feeling like they were battling an invisible enemy, always one step behind in a desperate race against time, the silence from Lily's whereabouts growing more ominous with each passing hour. His partner, Detective Rhea Sharma, was a force of nature. Young, sharp, and with a courage that seemed almost reckless at times, she was the antithesis of Corbin's haunted caution. She had a way of seeing through his carefully constructed walls, noticing the slight tremor in his hand when he poured coffee, the distant look in his eyes when a case grew too dark. Rhea didn't pry, not directly. Instead, she offered a steady presence, a calm voice in the storm of his thoughts. Her belief in him, unspoken yet palpable, was a lifeline he hadn't realized he desperately needed. She was the anchor in his turbulent sea of doubt, her resolve a quiet challenge to his fears. Together, they navigated the treacherous currents of the investigation. Rhea's tech savviness complemented Corbin's old-school instincts. She could pull information from the digital ether while he worked the streets, coaxing reluctant words from tight-lipped informants. They followed a particularly chilling lead to a disused medical supply warehouse near the docks. The air inside was cold, sterile, and carried the faint metallic scent of fear. It felt like a place where hope went to die. Rhea moved with a quiet confidence, her hand near her weapon, while Corbin fought to keep the rising panic, the memory of suffocating smoke, at bay. Her presence beside him was a silent reassurance, a shared burden in the oppressive darkness. Then, the vigilante appeared. They started finding his calling cards at scenes connected to the trafficking ring. A low-level enforcer, known for his brutality, was found bound and gagged in an alley, a crude symbol painted on the wall above him, a stylized scale of justice. A cryptic note, warning the traffickers that their time was running out, was left pinned to the man's chest. Corbin didn't know what to make of it. Was this masked figure an ally, dispensing a brutal form of justice they couldn't? Or was he another dangerous variable, a wild card in an already lethal game, complicating their every move and potentially endangering their investigation further? One rainy evening, acting on a tip, they staked out a clandestine meeting point, a derelict loading bay. Suddenly, shadows detached themselves from the deeper darkness. An ambush. Gunfire erupted, shattering the night's quiet. Muzzle flashes illuminated surprised, angry faces. Corbin and Rhea dived for cover, returning fire. It was chaos, bullets whining past their ears, the scent of cordite sharp in the damp air. Rhea, cool under pressure, laid down covering fire, allowing Corbin to flank their attackers. He moved, his training taking over, but the fear of being trapped, of the situation escalating beyond control, gnawed at him. They fought back to back, a desperate dance of survival, the unseen enemy pressing in. Their relentless pursuit, aided by a deciphered message likely left by the elusive vigilante, finally led them to an abandoned slaughterhouse on the city's outskirts. This was it, the nerve center of the organ trafficking ring. The air hung heavy with the stench of decay and despair, a chilling testament to the horrors within. Corbin could feel his heart hammering against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence. He knew with a certainty that chilled him to the bone that Lily Carter was inside. This was his chance to save her, to silence the ghosts, or to be consumed by them entirely. Rhea was beside him, her expression grim but resolute, her hand resting on her sidearm. As they prepared to breach, a sudden explosion rocked the building. Flames erupted from a lower window, greedily licking at the decaying structure. The traffickers were destroying evidence, creating chaos, a desperate, violent act. For Corbin, it was a horrifying denouement. The heat washed over him, a sickeningly familiar caress. The roar of the fire, the smell of burning wood, and something else, something chemical, transported him back. Back to the screams, the helplessness, the crushing weight of failure. He saw Lily's face in his mind, superimposed over the memory of that other lost child. Panic, cold and sharp, threatened to paralyze him completely. Ria shouted his name, her voice cutting through the roaring inferno and his own internal turmoil. She was already moving, engaging the fleeing traffickers, a whirlwind of controlled fury. But Corbin's gaze was fixed on the burning building. He heard a faint cry from within, a sound almost lost in the cacophony. Lily! He had to go in. The old fear, the one that had crippled him for years, screamed at him to run, to save himself. But a stronger impulse, the unyielding core of the cop he once was, the man he still wanted to be, pushed back. This time would be different. He wouldn't let the fire win. He wouldn't let another innocent perish. With a guttural roar that was part fury, part prayer, Corbin plunged into the inferno. Smoke stung his eyes, heat seared his lungs, debris crashed around him. He navigated the fiery maze, his past trauma a raging beast he now wrestled into submission. He found Lily, terrified but alive, in a smoke-filled room, moments from being overcome. He scooped her into his arms, shielding her small frame with his own body, and fought his way back through the collapsing structure. He emerged, coughing, soot-stained but victorious, into the cool night air, Lily safe. The flames still raged behind him, but they no longer held the same power. He had faced his demon, walked through his personal hell, and come out the other side, a life saved, a measure of redemption finally, blessedly his.